If you know me, or if you've seen some of my videos before, then you'll know that I'm a huge horror movie fan. So I've done videos on horror movies where the villain won, ranking scream kills, and Ghostface killers. You should check them out. But in today's video, I'll be talking about a different type of horror movie, or in fact, the real story behind the film. If you haven't caught on, or if you can't read the title of this video, then I'm going to be talking about The Conjuring. But before I jump into it, I wanted to let you guys know that I'll be sticking to a weekly upload schedule from now on, now that I've finished uni for the semester and I've got all summer to create videos now. And not only am I going to be covering the real story behind The Conjuring, but in next week's video I'll be talking about the real case behind The Conjuring 2, and then The Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It, and then who knows after that. If this series goes well, then I can cover more things to do with the Conjuring universe, and other movies as well, if you guys are interested. I also did a weird poll thing for like what video you guys wanted to see next. I know there was only 5 votes on it, but every single person voted for this video, so fuck it. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So The Conjuring, released in 2013 and directed by James Wan, is often considered a pivotal film in modern horror movie cinema, and what makes it even scarier is that it's based on a true story, the real life case of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The first movie in the series tells us the story of the Perron family, a cursed farmhouse, a witch named Bathsheba, and 2 of the most famous paranormal investigators in history. This is the real case behind The Conjuring. In 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved into an old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, known as the Old Arnold Estate, with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. Andrea, the oldest of the 5, actually self-published a series of books about their experience in the home in 2011 entitled House of Darkness, House of Light. She's the most vocal of the sisters. She's appeared in numerous interviews sharing her experiences as well. So, the Perron family lived in the farmhouse for approximately 10 years and they moved out in June of 1980. There have since been new owners who have lived in the property, but I'll talk about them a little bit later on. Both the Perron family and Lorraine Warren supported the creation of the 2013 film, and they actually visited the set a few times. Lorraine Warren actually worked with James Wan as a consultant to ensure that the film was as factually correct as possible, which is some statement to be fair. And she also made a cameo during the scene where Ed and Lorraine Warren, well, their characters, are given a lecture on demonology. Fun wee Easter egg there. So there is a cool interview with the real Lorraine and the director James Wan, which is a good watch too. I'll show that a little bit later on as well. So, shortly after moving into the farmhouse, the Perron family began having some strange experiences. So they would hear disembodied voices, they would see moving furniture, and the mother Carolyn began waking up with strange bruises that she couldn't explain. At first things were mild, but they got worse very, very quickly. Demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in to help, and Lorraine, being clairvoyant, claimed to sense a malevolent presence tied to the land. Oh my god, I can't speak. After digging into the history of the Old Arnold Estate, chilling details were discovered. Over the years, several people had passed away on the land. Public records show 2 people who took their own lives by hanging, 1 by poison. There was the R word and murder of an 11-year-old girl. There were 4 men who froze to death and an infant who was murdered as well. There've also been a few more apparently. And then there was Bathsheba Sherman. So Bathsheba Thayer Sherman lived on the land in the mid-1800s. I did look for a photo of the real Bathsheba, but all that I was able to find was a photograph that was taken in 1885, which was the same year that she died. So it's possible that Bathsheba is in this photograph, but again we can't say for sure. So rumours swirled around that she was actually involved in occult practices and was accused of being a witch. The townspeople said that she sacrificed her infant child in a satanic ritual as she drove a knitting needle through the baby's skull as she offered up the baby's soul to Satan. She was never convicted of anything though, due to lack of evidence, but the suspicion followed her until her death in 1885. According to this legend, Bathsheba cursed the land before she died, vowing to torment anyone who tried to take what was hers. And a fun fact as well, her real gravestone can still be found in the Harrisville Cemetery in Rhode Island today. The Warrens would later claim that it was the spirit of suspected witch Bathsheba that had latched onto the mother, Carolyn Perron. In her book series, Andrea Perron recounted that whatever haunted their home fed on their fear and would never stop. Many accounts in the books were left out of the movie due to how disturbing they were. I would definitely recommend reading these books. There's so much more to the story than the movie laid on, and there's nothing quite like hearing from a person that was actually there firsthand. To this day, Andrea maintains that what she and her family experienced was real and far more terrifying than Hollywood could ever imagine. She also recounts one event in which Lorraine Warren held a séance which allegedly resulted in a temporary possession of Carolyn. She stated, "The only time I was ever truly frightened was during the séance. There are no words to adequately express that event." This was at the end of the investigation, before Roger Perron, the father, ordered Ed and Lorraine Warren to leave the house after Carolyn began speaking a strange language, and apparently she levitated out of her chair. The next owners of the property is Norma and Jerry Sutcliffe. They had less intense experiences though. Norma stressed that she always looked at things from a scientific standpoint, which is fair enough, and she never ever jumped to conclusions about any paranormal activity. Since the release of the film, however, Norma and Jerry have endured trespassers and onlookers, and in order to fight back, Norma spent months gathering evidence to disprove Andrea Perron's story. There is a video on this by History vs Hollywood, which I'll link in the description so that you can hear from them. Now, there is another owner who doesn't live on the property but rents it out for people to visit and stay overnight. There's like dozens of YouTubers and plenty of YouTube videos and TV shows as well, like Ghost Adventures, who've found themselves staying in the property overnight, desperately trying to catch something paranormal. Now, the movie itself, of course, wasn't fully accurate, as some scenes were dramatised, including the scene where Ed performs an exorcism, as in real life this was never officially sanctioned by the Catholic Church, so this didn't really happen. This was actually the seance, but in the movie it's an exorcism, fuck knows why. Exorcisms are not as common as you think, as there's actually like a very complicated process which one has to go through in order to get an exorcism. So the Catholic Church was like, no. Surely though, if this story is real and it actually happened, then there must be some sort of evidence out there. This was the hardest part. Well, researchers looking into the history of Bathsheba Sherman found no evidence of a trial or inquiry involving Bathsheba. Surely a trial involving a woman plunging a knitting needle into an infant would be like front page news, but there's like nothing in local newspapers or any court documents to prove this. There's also no evidence to prove that she was a witch or that she mangled in the occult. In fact, they did find out that she was actually a member of the local Baptist church, and the minister actually oversaw her funeral. Now I'm going to show some clips relating to this case. Some are interviews, some are other things that I found, so I'll show them now.
Congratulations, this is fantastic. And I have to ask you first, Lorraine, what was it like for you to relive this experience?
You mean from the beginning?
Well, basically, when James came to you and said he was going to make this film, and then the whole experience of talking to Vera and Patrick,
Yes.
and then watching it.
Well, just to, the last time when I was out there on the coast, well, I'm out here on the coast again, but
Different coast.
Yeah, yes. I sat next to you. There was children coming and asking questions. Mm-hmm. At that time, I realized how I could speak to you. You weren't somebody way, way, way up here. That you were a down-to-earth person that I could explain things to. Because my psychic ability, that is nothing that I had control over. I had no control over it at all. I was educated in private Catholic girls' schools, and there's no such thing as anything like this happening. And I kept going to confession. I would go to confession and confess that I was sinning. Then I was with this Jesuit priest. He said, "That's not a sin." He says, "That's you." "Why me?" He says, I can't give you that answer, and you're never going to have the answer." "I'm never going to?" He says, Yes, you have to, you'll learn to live with it and control it. I live with it, but you don't control it.
Yeah. James, for you to take on this, you know, this story and to tell it, and to have Lorraine there, you know, wow, how amazing was that for you?
It was amazing. I've been a big fan of Lorraine's for a while. Growing up, you know, I've seen, you know, I've read stories and seen, you know, certain movies that were based on cases that Lorraine and Ed had investigated. And when the time came, when this project came along, I had just finished Insidious, and I wanted to get back into studio filmmaking, and this was like the perfect project for me to get back into it with. You know, the chance to take what I've honed over the years as a filmmaker, and you know, and bring it to this particular movie, and you know, and to do, you know, justice to the story of the Warrens, and also the parents as well, that are the other set of family that are involved in this film.
Was there ever a time where you both decided you wanted to go back to that house?
The real house? Not with me, no.
You and I.
Not with me.
You and I, let's say both. It follows you. What was there follows you. It was very negative. Very, very negative home. It really drained everything out of you to go in that house.
Yeah, it was less scary to just build a set of the house.
The casting, phenomenal. Really, like Lily, boy, did she ever take a beating. Vera, to play you know, how much time did you spend with Vera and Patrick, I guess, to just, you know, let them know what was really going on in yours and Ed's life?
You mean why we were investigating, or?
Oh, no, when Vera and Patrick were cast.
Oh,
You
yes.
obviously had to spend some time, and you know, how did you, you know, fill them in on what happened and get them to really know how you felt and what you went through? You had to have been a huge help to them.
Well, I don't know how to really approach that. You know, I don't have the answer for you on that. You have to help people to understand things. You have to do it in pieces, you know, like you were for a child, like you were trying to explain something to a child, because the normal person, imagine going through this. Just imagine going through it. You know, it's horrible. It's very, very terrifying, and that house was very, very bad. It was bad.
That's right. Until now, and here this morning to tell us more about the story and the Rhode Island-inspired film is Andrea Perron, author of House of Darkness, House of Light. Good morning.
Good morning.
We don't have too long, but I could talk to you for about 5 hours and listen and hang on every word. This is, first, tell me about the book. You moved into this house in Harrisville, Rhode Island when you were 11 years old, right?
Well, they bought it. My mom and dad bought it when I was 11. We moved in after Christmas in 1971, the first week of January, so I had already turned 12, and my youngest sister was 5.
When did the paranormal activity begin?
The day we moved into the house, we were unloading boxes from the truck. It was a swirling ice storm outside. I walked through the dining room and politely greeted a man, a full body apparition that I saw standing behind the door. And I just said good morning and kept walking. And then my sister came in right behind me and she said, "Mom, who's that man in the dining room?" And my mother said, "What man?" "Mr. Kenyon's packing the last of his belongings." She said, "No, the man behind the door." And my mother said, "Honey, there's no other man in the dining room." And then Nancy came in right behind, little peanut that she is, and she leaned over to Cindy and she said, "You know that man in the dining room? He just disappeared."
Wow.
And that was it.
So give everybody at home a little background about what happened in that house before you moved in, and then a little bit about what happened while you were there.
Well, the house was completed as it is now in 1736, and 8 generations of one extended family lived in that house and died in that house, and at least a dozen of them never left.
Really? Now, and let everybody know what the owner of the house told your father as you were moving in.
As we were getting ready to take him to his new home, he said, "Roger, come for a walk with me," and just laid his hand on his arm and said, "For the sake of your family, leave the lights on at night."
Okay, all right, now I'm really creeped out. The spirits that were in the house, one of them was called Bathsheba, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, supposedly she hated your mother, but lusted after your father.
Yes, she was overt about her attention to my father, and she coveted us, the 5 children. Bathsheba lost all 3 of her children before the age of 4. So if it is indeed Bathsheba, and there is still some question about that, because Mrs. John Arnold hung herself in the barn, and she obviously broke her neck, and the apparition that would repeatedly manifest in the house had a broken neck. But so there's always going to be that lingering question. The mystery of it truly is, who was it that was haunting that house? But the fact of the matter is that whatever it was that was after my mother, still to this moment perceives herself to be the mistress of the house, and she didn't appreciate my mother's competition for that role.
And do you believe that that spirit is still in that house?
No question about it. I took my dad back there for the first time after 30 years last summer, and we weren't in the house 5 minutes, and
Yeah, okay.
So that's all that I've got for you guys. I want to know what you guys think. You know, was Bathsheba Sherman a wrongfully accused woman, or was she a real devil-worshipping witch whose curse lives on? Did the hauntings really happen, or are they just looking for money and fame? Yeah, let me know in the comments. So yeah, that's all for this video. Next week I'm going to be looking into The Conjuring 2, which there is a bit more evidence on. There's like photos and recordings and stuff, and this one happened in the UK, which is, I don't want to say close because I live in Scotland, and this happened in London, which I've been to plenty of times. So yeah, this is a UK one, but I was watching some of the videos doing like my research because I've already started on it, you know, I'm well ahead, and some of the shit I'm just watching and I'm like, sure, that's gonna be fucking real. But yeah, that's next week. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys for next week's video. You better be there. You better be there.